What is going on, friends? It is Ben with Bearded Spruce back for another video for you guys. Today we are putting this sheet, OSB sheathing, on the walls in what used to be my shop. Now we're actually turning it into a home gym, and I'm turning our 2-car garage that's connected to our alley back into my shop because this is way too cool of a space to not use as our personal home gym, and we're just tired of going to commercial gyms, to be honest. Sometimes it's empty and there's no vibe, sometimes it's too crowded and there's too much vibe. It's just kind of not my favorite. So my wife and I decided we're going to make this our gym and turn the 2-car garage into my shop, which has much better access to get things in and out of. If you have followed me at all, you know that I do DIY projects, home renovation stuff, all kinds of things. And today we're starting this new project of turning this into that dream gym of ours. So we decided to put OSB sheeting on the walls for 2 reasons. One, I just hate drywall. It sucks. I mean, it's easy to cut. You can use a knife and that kind of stuff and hang and use screws and all that kind of stuff, but I just don't like it, and I'd rather work with wood because I'm a woodworker. And second reason is you can hang things no matter where you're at. You don't have to hit a stud for like lighter things, which is going to be super helpful for all kinds of accessories in the future for the gym. First of all, thanks for watching. I know that you are taking time out of your day, your schedule to check out my channel. Feel free to check out some other stuff. Feel free to subscribe. I'm going to have a bunch of videos coming out soon about turning this into a gym. I want it to be easy and accessible for everybody to do stuff like this, and so I try to break it down as simple as possible. And I have multiple tools that I'll show you that you can use. You don't have to use expensive tools to do this stuff. You can use, DIY friendly, Ryobi, or even Hart. You can get it at Walmart, all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to use my nicer tools because I have them, but I'll kind of show you along the way how to do stuff on the cheap if you don't want to invest in all these tools. Other videos that are coming up, I'm going to install a mini split. I'm also going to do like a custom platform for squats, for our squat rack, all kinds of stuff coming up. So stay tuned and let's jump into today's video. The first thing we got to do is cut this sheet to the right size. So chances are your studs are like mine. They're 16 inches on center. My sides are not 16, so I'm gonna have to cut this sheet, the first sheet on this wall, down to size essentially. And you can see over here, basically it's gonna hang over a little bit past this stud. I want to land each one of them on the stud when it finishes because I don't want when you like lean up against the wall there to be any flex, and if we had an overhang there'd be a bunch of flexing in the joint area, and that's not good long term because it will kind of wiggle and not be good. So we're going to cut that to size there, as well as I have some outlets on this wall. And so I'm going to mark where that outlet is. We want to get things nice and snug in the corner. And then I'm just going to mark on the outside of the outlet, basically the start and the finish. Pro tip here, standard outlets are 48 inches off the ground anyway. And so if you do 48 inches to the top of your outlet boxes, the perfect sheet of OSB will go right to the top. And so when you cut out the outlet box, it will be basically right to the end of your first sheet, and then your next sheet will sit right on top of it, and you won't have to cut a random hole in the middle of your plywood and do all the math and figure out exactly where it is. So this is kind of a cheat code here. We just have one outlet in this sheet, but I might have 2 in the next one. So, you get the gist. So I'm going to move this over to where I'm going to cut it, and then we'll go on to the next step. So now that I've marked where I want to cut my piece of OSB to land halfway on that stud, I'm going to rip it. I'm going to use my Craig plunge saw. It cuts just really nice with these tracks and that kind of stuff. If you want to buy one of these, I'll have an affiliate link in the description below to Amazon. It comes with this saw and one of these tracks that are 48 inches, more than 48 inches long. So you can cut a piece of plywood widthwise, but you could also use jigsaw and just draw a line and try your best to keep that line with your jigsaw. Or you could go get a skill saw. They're about 30 to 50 bucks, and get a square or something like that, clamp it down and run your saw next to it, so it kind of like uses the 48 inch straight edge as kind of like your guide. But since I have this saw, I'm going to use it. Make sure that when you're cutting something like this, you're not cutting on top of another piece of plywood, because it will make a groove in that piece of plywood. But I'm going to cut this, and then we'll move on to the next step. And now that I cut the size that I want widthwise, I'm going to mark out where the outlet was. I put 2 dashes where the outlet started and where it ended, and I know the height of that outlet is 3 3/4. So I'm going to use my speed square to mark that on one side, mark that on the other side, and then create a line going across. And then once I have that marked out, once again, I want to make sure that I'm not sitting on top of another piece of plywood or OSB. And for this, I'm going to use just a cheap jigsaw. These are really inexpensive. I'll link to one of these in the description below with my affiliate link stuff, but you can go pick one up at any store. Plugs in, super simple. Just be really careful where your fingers go. Make sure you don't injure yourself. But so I'm going to cut this out. And now we have everything cut out to install the piece. One other thing I wanted to mention is there are 2 different sides to this OSB. There's kind of this rough side that is kind of makes things flake off a little bit, and then there's like more of a smooth side. It's almost not polished, but it's like a lot nicer to the touch. And so I'm choosing to do the smooth side on the outside, but it's up to you what you choose. All right, so then we're going to bring this to place. So I find the easiest way to secure these, and since it's wood and there's humidity changes throughout seasons and that kind of stuff, is using some nails with a nail gun. And this one is a pneumatic nail gun, so I have a compressor outside of the view here. But essentially, you can rent this whole setup for pretty inexpensive, or if you know someone that has one, awesome. You just load the nails in there. These are 2-inch, and then we nail the piece to the wall. You'll notice that I have this laser level. This is a totally optional step, but it will save you a ton of time. Essentially, I have it lined up in the middle of this stud, and instead of having to mark on the floor, like the concrete essentially, where the stud is and possibly miss it or draw a chalk line or something like that, I can just use this laser level to know exactly where to put the nails. For the studs in the middle of the piece, I'm going to do one every foot-ish, going down. And then for the edges, some other guy mentioned that he does every 6 inches, so we'll do that here. Okay, so a few things to point out. No corner is going to be perfect. I'm not too worried about it. We might end up painting this black or just leaving it raw. But you could go to the pain of ripping this perfectly, because essentially most walls kind of bow out a little bit towards the top. I'm not worried about it. This is a gym. We're going to put stuff on the walls, cover up all kinds of stuff, but you just want it to be decently, okay when you're looking at it and not bothering you. You also want a little bit of room for movement, so you don't have to get your joints perfect. This is, again, a gym, so keep that in mind. And then also, I did back out the screws on this outlet so I could put the outlet essentially on top of the OSB when I tighten it down. So bring it out, make sure that the power's off or don't touch any of the wires, and that will be pretty easy. And then the next piece is pretty simple. Obviously I have an outlet there as well as another outlet going in over there. So I'll have to do the same process I did for this outlet over here. But you cut to length and then you cut out the outlets and rinse and repeat throughout the process. So that's going to pretty much wrap up this project. I have a lot more of the sheeting to do, but you pretty much just rinse and repeat that same process over and over again. So put your sheet up against the wall, measure out where you want outlets to be cut out, make sure you're landing on half of a stud where the piece ends, and nail the piece to the wall. It's that simple. Guys, this 19 by 15 foot gym that I'm sheathing, basically up to 9 feet, I'm gonna worry about the rest of it later, is really only costing me in materials about $250 for these OSB, pretty much 1/2 inch, they're 7/16 1/2 inch pieces. And I went to my local Lowe's, picked them up myself because I have a truck, but you could also have them drop them off in your driveway. If you're doing this to a garage, it would be super simple. So definitely economical. For a similar space to have someone drywall just these walls, you're probably talking a couple grand. And then you can't hang stuff anywhere. You have to really find a stud, and it's more difficult. You have to get a stud finder, all that kind of stuff. So super easy project. I would encourage anyone out there that is doing multiple layers to do 2 things. One, it would probably be good to have a second set of hands. It gets a little awkward. These are about 35 pounds a piece, and I've done a lot of construction and that kind of stuff, so I can handle it personally, but I would really encourage you just to get a second set of hands if you're going to do something like this. And two, you'll notice behind me that I did stagger the joints. This is not necessary, but I thought visually it looked better. So basically I started on that side of the wall with a full or mostly full piece and kind of ran my boards this way. And then the next row I started with a mostly full piece here and ran the boards that way, if that makes sense. So pretty awesome. When it's done, it looks really nice. And basically, even if you have to rent the nail gun, the compressor, skill saw, a jigsaw, you're still probably going to be around $500 to $600 in 2025 or around this time. So each one of these sheets is about $17 right now at my local Lowe's. It's not that much for this size room to cover all the walls for $250. So definitely an economical choice. But thanks so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to have a bunch more videos pertaining to finishing this gym and turning it into our dream gym. I have a bunch of other videos that are DIY friendly stuff, all kinds of stuff, and definitely check out the links in the description below for all the tools that you saw I used today, including the laser level, the nail gun like this, the skill saw, the jigsaw, all that kind of stuff. It definitely helps my channel out when people buy stuff through the links in the description below. Otherwise, just enjoy watching, and we'll see you next time.